I'm here to teach you the secret of a really great synopsis, and I don't just mean how to write a great synopsis that will be in the top 5 or 10% of all the synopses that agents see, but also how to make it really easy for you, how to write that synopsis without going completely crazy with the effort. But let's start right at the beginning. What is a synopsis anyway? That's where we'll start. I'm Harry Bingham for Jericho Writers, and let's get straight into it. So a synopsis is about 500 words long. It tells your story from start to finish. It includes very brief character summaries, and it's all telling, not showing. Okay, so you're not evoking the character's sadness. You're just saying, the character, this happened, she was sad, and then you move on. You've only got 500 words, so you've got to keep it really dense and precise. Okay, what a synopsis is not, it's not a blurb, it's not a sales pitch, it's not the kind of book description you see on Amazon. It's not salesy, it's not a sales tool. You're simply describing the story of your book in about 500 or 600 words. Check an agent's site for their specific requirements. Some of them have got specific requirements, but really 500 or 600 words, maybe 800 words at a maximum should do you absolutely fine. Now, why do agents want a synopsis? Okay, the reason is quite simple. An agent, if they read your covering letter, your query letter, and they're interested in that, and if they engage by the first few pages of your manuscript, they might think, this looks like a go, this looks like something that I might be really interested in. But at that point, they're quite likely to say, before I commit 4 hours to reading this manuscript, I want to know if there's a story here that I'm going to be able to sell. So an agent doesn't want to waste all that time reading your manuscript if your book has no story, or if the story is basically not strong enough, or if the fundamental idea for the story is basically flawed. And a synopsis should provide for the agent a quick way to check whether your story is fundamentally okay. Okay, so that's what agents want with it. And now we get into the two big tricks of the synopsis. And what we're going to do, I'm going to reveal what those tricks are, but then we're actually going to look at a very mini worked example. And you can just apply that learning to your story, and you'll find it unbelievably easy to write your synopsis. I would think that after watching this video, you should be able to write your synopsis within 1 hour, okay, and make it really good. Okay, so the first trick we have is you need to put your manuscript away. Don't have it on a bundle of pages, on your desk beside you. Don't have it open on your laptop. Literally, do not look at or the manuscript directly. What we're going to do is, instead of working with a manuscript and trying to boil that down into 500 words, which is a near impossible exercise, and believe me, I've tried to do it, what we're going to do instead is we're going to take your structure, the structure for your story, and build up from there. And because the core structure of your story is so simple, creating 500 words from that, you'll actually be looking for things you can add rather than things you can delete, and that makes it much, much easier to do. So that's the first trick. But why do people read? The answer is, people read because they want to engage with a character and an emotional journey, the one that you're going to be telling in your book. So the second vital trick for a synopsis is you can't leave your characters out of it. You can't just deliver information about the plot or the story. Readers care about characters. So your synopsis is going to deliver character arcs as well as just plot action. And as I say, we'll have a little look at a worked example of how that works. And what do I mean by story structure? Well, all stories fall into the following 5 categories. And I don't mean that you're going to have headlines in your synopsis. So the agent isn't going to see these headlines. These are just for you. But you're going to think about, what is the status quo? What is the status quo at the start of your story? What is the initiating incident? What incident kicks off all of the action, disrupts the status quo, and gets your story moving? Then I've just got a section, developments. That's the middle act of your story, okay? And that could easily be 50% of your novel, it could be 60% of your novel. It's that whole messy bundle right in the middle, which is where people most often have the problems with their synopsis. Don't worry about it, it's just one section of your story, and you're going to cover that in about 200, 250 words. Status quo, initiating incident, developments, and then obviously your book is going to end with some kind of crisis, some kind of emotional or external world crisis, everything coming together, the little death of the soul, and then a resolution, how your book ends. And if you just lay down in simple text what happens under each of those headings, you'll find it incredibly easy to build up your synopsis. Now, I'm not going to build a whole synopsis up in this video, but here's a little worked example of the opening chunk, and you can see how desperately easy it is. So when you're thinking about status quo, and remember, the agent isn't going to see little headings that are saying status quo initiating incident. You're just going to write a fluid bit of 500, 600 words of text. But in your head, you're thinking about status quo and initiating incident and so on. So your synopsis might simply go, World War II, 1942, Captain Jones is commanding a British destroyer in the Arctic. You move on to the initiating incident. His ship is struck by a torpedo and starts to sink. And developments. Jones realizes he can't save the ship, but he manages to launch the boats. He radios for help. A US vessel on special operations hears the call, and blah, blah, blah. I'm just making this up, so I don't really know what happens next. You can see that that's very functional. We've got an immediate sense of the shape of the story, which is, remember, what that literary agent is most looking for. But it feels very bare. We don't feel engaged with it. And even though we're reading a synopsis, which is clearly not going to be a very emotionally engaging piece of text, it just feels like something that, why would we want to read this story? Okay. So this is where we layer in little bits about our character and the actual character arcs of those characters. Okay, so we're now expanding the synopsis. So you may even want to lay down your synopsis in layers. So allow about 300, 350 words for the basic plot action of your story. And of that, maybe only about 50% is that development section. It could even be less than that, and that's fine if it is. There'll be lots of plot incidents that you're leaving out. That's really fine. You can just say, through a tangled sequence of incidents, blah, 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 and that's fine. That's all the agent needs. Now let's look at layering that character stuff in on top. So World War II, 1942, Captain Bob Jones, 45, is commanding a British destroyer in the Arctic. That's basically the same as we had before, notice, except that I've capitalized, I've put that name in bold and put an age in. It's really great to have names in bold because then agents can instantly identify who is who, and if they get 2/3 of the way down the synopsis and forget a particular character's name, they can easily locate it and go, yes, oh yes, that's Captain Jones, he's age 42, got him. So Captain Bob Jones, 45, is commanding a British destroyer in the Arctic. Jones is fiercely committed to his duty. His rapport with the men is functional, not close. Now that's a little bit of character type language, and you can instantly see the emotional shape of the book starting to form. So you know already just from that one sentence that this book is in a way going to be about Captain Jones's emotional transition from a dutiful man but whose relationship with the men is functional to presumably a dutiful man whose relationship with the men is much more complex and human. Then we get into the initiating incident. His ship is struck by a torpedo and starts to sink. That's exactly what we had before. In the process of saving the men, he snaps needlessly at a young seaman, Evan Lewis, 21. Lewis is in tears afterwards. Now clearly that incident doesn't tell us very much about the whole sinking of the ship, but it does tell us something about Captain Jones, who he is, and his emotional transition through the story. And then we get into the developments. Jones realizes he can't save the ship, but he manages to launch the boats. He radios for help. A US vessel on special operations hears the call. The radio operator, and again we introduce somebody, Amka Asaruk, is an Inuit woman, blah, blah, blah. And you can see already how we've got layering the plot in these just chunks, these sort of functional chunks, and then layering character language over the top of that. That delivers a synopsis which in its own very bare, sort of very naked way is already emotionally engaging. It starts to feel like a story we might want to read. Okay, so that's the learning. You just build up the synopsis from your structure, put your manuscript away, don't go anywhere near your manuscript while you're writing your synopsis, leave out the detail. It's really okay to leave it out. That's what a synopsis is for. What this agent wants is to get an understanding of your structure. The actual detail way that plays out is something for the book itself. Layer that character information in over the plot information and give the reader of the synopsis a sense of the emotional shape of the book. Okay, now we've got a really great tool for writing not just your synopsis, but for writing your query letter as well. It's totally free. It's our Agent Submissions Pack Builder, and you can get it from the link right below this video. I'm Harry Bingham for Jericho Writers. Thank you very much indeed for watching.